Hello, everyone, and thank you for stopping by my YouTube channel, Get Crafty with Sally. My name is Sally Poole. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Albany, Oregon. Welcome. I'm glad you could join me today. Today I'm going to be showing you some cards made with this new paper pack called Thoughtful Journey, and it's a 6x6 pack. There are 48 sheets in there, so that's quite a bit. It is on page 47 in the new catalog. So if you haven't seen it, the papers are gorgeous. There's so many colors in here. You get a great opportunity to coordinate things and match things, so it's really a fun set. And what I thought I would do today is go through how I made these 4 cards. And I thought they're different degrees of skill level, I guess, and products that would be used. This one is a simple card for a beginner, and we'll start with that. I did want to, if you are just getting into card making, I did want to go through a few things that people might skip when they're doing these videos. The Stampin' Up! Cardstock comes in either packs of 8.5 by 11 paper, or there are some packs that are 12 by 12. I tend to get the 8.5 by 11 for the cardstock. So what you would do is you're going to need a trimmer, most likely. So you would take a piece of 8.5 11 paper, and you can either cut it down the center this way and make 2 card bases, or you can cut it the long way and make 2 card bases. It's just going to fold different. So I'll show you how I do mine. I'm just going to cut this at, since it's 11 inches, I'm going to cut it at 5.5. So there's our 2 card base pieces. And what I do, and there's probably a lot of people that don't do this, but when I cut it, if you feel on the back, which is going to be the inside of your card, there's a little ridge there, and I like to take my bone folder and press that out. That's just a me thing. That's not something that you have to do. And then you can either score the cardstock in the trimmer down the center, which would be 4 1/4 in this case, or you can just fold it over in half like I just did, and then take your bone folder and give it a good crease. So that is the basics of getting your card base. So let's move on to the first card. And like I said, this is a beginner card. It's pretty simple. Here are the pieces that you'll need to make this card. And as always, I will have a PDF with all of the measurements and supplies. So you can click the link down below this video in the description box to go over to my blog and get the PDF, or you can grab a quick screenshot of this if you like. So one more thing before I get started. If you're not familiar with the photopolymer stamps, they are a clear, kind of a sticky rubber. A lot of people, when they mount the stamps on their acrylic block, They actually put it on by hand. I don't do that. I think the best way to do it is just to kind of set it down or drop it so that it lays in its natural form, and then pick it up with your acrylic block. So that might be a good tip for some of you. I already did stamp my designer series paper with sympathy, and it is from the Unbounded Love set, which is on page 54 in the new catalog. There's a ton of great sentiments. The die set that matches is fabulous. A lot of really neat shapes and some great die cuts. So, and I use, for my inks, when I stamp my sentiments, I usually use VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. It is a really vivid, nice black. It does take a little bit longer to dry than the Memento Tuxedo Black. The only bad thing that I found about the VersaFine Clair is you can't stamp an image and then color with it. Even if you let it dry, it seems to smear. Anyway, that's been my experience. So I do use a Tuxedo Black Memento ink when I'm stamping an image and going to color it. So let's put this card together. Take our little stickers off. And I'm using the new Petunia Pop for the card base. I've already folded it, but let's give that a good crease. And then let's take our designer series paper piece, and I'm just going to use my tape runner and wow, that was a snore and a half. Put some tape on the back of that piece. You could also use glue if you want. My favorite glue is the Tombow monoliquid glue. Everybody calls it green glue. So then let's put some tape on the back of this piece. Is Misty Moonlight, and I think the Misty Moonlight and Petunia Pop look really pretty together. So let's place that down on our card base. Try to get all the margins around the edge even. And then I'm going to take a piece of basic white, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to adhere it to the inside of my card. I always like to have a normally white piece on the inside to write on. You could write on this. Gosh, you're going to have to listen to that dog. Hopefully you can't hear it very well. And let me mention, on this piece of paper, the designer series paper, they come in 6 inches by 6 inches. So for this particular piece, I did cut, there was a larger tree over here. So I cut this side down. So this is 5 1/4 inches. And then I actually cut 1/4 inch off the bottom, and then I cut the rest down to 4 inches. So that piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I think that's everything about this card. Let me tell you quickly what happened yesterday. I went to record this video, and I was blah, 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 doing my thing. Just finished up the second card, and I happened to look over my ring light at my phone, and the screen was black. Nothing was happening. So I was like panicking. Oh my gosh, what happened? And I've always made a promise to myself after the first video I did, and I started over 5 times, I think. I said, whatever goes wrong, you just have to keep going. Well, yesterday I couldn't keep going. So, needless to say, I was totally deflated, frustrated, and of course I had put 2 cards together, so then I didn't have any more of these pieces. So I just took the dogs for a walk in the rain and got over it and am moving on today. So I did have to redo all these pieces so we could put these cards together today. So hopefully everything goes well. That certainly was not part of the plan. And the issue was that apparently I ran out of storage on my phone. So I had been deleting images and videos and things, but my trash was so full that it was, counts that as storage. So here are the items that you're going to need for this card. So you can grab a screenshot if you want, or like I said, you can run over to my blog and get the PDF. So the next process that we're going to do with this card, that's, I'm going to say, a step up from the basic beginner simple card, is we are going to dry emboss this piece of designer series paper, and we're going to use a punch. So let's move some stuff out of the way here. I'm going to bring my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine in. You can cut dies with this, and you can emboss things. There is a base plate, plate 1, and it has the instructions for both on it. This shows the die cutting instructions. This shows the embossing instructions. So we're going to put our base plate in. We're going to grab our piece of paper that we want to emboss. The embossing folder that I'm using is the Basics 3D Cross Hatch. And I'm pretty sure that it's retired. I am using several retired items. I am not one of those demonstrators that when things retire, I get rid of everything and start over, because all of you still have those items, so why not use them? So I've got my paper in my folder, and you always want to remember to run, this is called the hinge, where it folds. You want to run that through first, because if you run it through where it opens, sometimes it can get caught wonky on that roller in there, and then they won't go through evenly, and it'll actually crack the embossing folder, or it could break your hinge. So let's set that on there. We'll put our plate 4 on top. Get it straight. Give this a few cranks. Set that back aside. And then we've got our nice piece of embossed paper. All right, so let's grab our card base. Give that another little burnish. And this is Cajun Craze. So we're going to adhere the designer series paper to the Cajun Craze. You can either adhere it with the glue, or you can use a tape runner. You kind of have to be careful with the tape runner sometimes, because after you've embossed it, sometimes the paper seems kind of thin and fragile, like it might tear or crack. So I'm going to put a few little strips of adhesive down the center also, and we will adhere this to our Cajun Craze piece. When you emboss the cardstock, it does tend to pull it in a little bit. I think if I measured this, it wouldn't quite be 4 by 5 1/4 any longer. So let's add a little tape to the back of our Cajun Craze piece. And we'll adhere that to our card base. I should have brought a piece of colored cardstock to put under there. It's hard to see the base on this grid sheet. So the next thing we're going to do is, I have already stamped my sentiment, Hope, and this is also from the Unbounded Love set. And I'm going to take the, this is called the Double Oval Punch, and it's retired too. I'm not going to get rid of it, ever. It's one of my favorites. So there's a little slot here in the center of your punch. You would just slide your paper down. I'm going to have to do it right-handed. Center it in that little window, and then just press that and it'll punch that out for you. So I'm also going to put a little layer of Cajun Craze behind that. So I've got my scrap of Cajun Craze, and I'm wanting the larger scalloped piece. So we'll punch that out. And these punches you can fold it up and lock it so it lays flat for storage, which is great. So let's get a little bit of green glue. And I hope, I've never done 4 cards in a video before, so hopefully it won't run forever. I mean, take me forever. If it does, hopefully there's a few of you that'll hang in and watch it anyway. So now I am going to grab some dimensionals and put a couple of those on the back of my sentiment. Let's see if I have any. I do. Some of these that I've cut in half. Make sure you use all the edges and everything on your dimensionals. It's all the same stuff. You might as well take advantage of it and use it all. Okay, so let's pull our dimensional covers off, and then we will place our sentiment on our card front and hopefully get it somewhat straight. The next thing I'm going to do is add some Pearl Basic Jewels, and these are retired also, but they are my favorite ever, and they only came in white. But what I did was took my light Cajun Craze Stampin' blend, and you can actually just, I'm going to use this big tip, you can actually just carefully go around that pearl and color it. So you can color these any color you want. You want to be really careful with that tip, because if you get just crazy with it, it will fray. The other end, it'll work on this, but it doesn't seem to work as well as that one does. So let me grab some tweezers and we will put some pearls on our card. I told the dogs before I started I would give them their favorite treat when I was done if there was no barking. So I guess I should have mentioned snoring, but I guess that's okay. So I've got these two pieces for the inside. I have a piece of Cajun Craze, and then I'm actually going to put my basic white on top of it. I don't do that very often, but I just thought it would look really nice on this card. And there are 3 stamps in this stamp set that have things that go with them. So this one says, "Hope is believing in a brighter tomorrow." There's also one that says, "Love never gives up." And then one that says, "Faith is being sure of what we cannot see." I absolutely love that one. That one's a winner. Okay, so let's grab our tape runner again. I might go through a entire roll of tape runner for this video. I've got some extras sitting off to the side, but I'm not sure that they've got much tape in them, so cross my fingers. Okay, here's the one we're working on. So we'll center that. And for stamps, especially like this, I do usually use my Stamparatus to line it up. There are grid lines on the clear top sheet that the stamp attaches to. So you can line things up like that, which is really great. So there's that card. What are you thinking about this paper? I think it's wonderful. So let's move on to the third card. This is a little different of a technique. This is actually all from one piece of designer series paper, but I did cut the center of it out and then put a layer of boho blue under it. So let's grab what you're going to need for this one. And I do have some of the new, this is the Petal Pink and White 1/4 inch diagonal trim combo pack. It's a very pretty ribbon. It's got a nice little design on it. It is on page 113 in the catalog. Can you see that? I love it. Not as much as the crinkled seam binding ribbon, but I think that it's going to be okay. I'm just glad we have a white ribbon now. So if you want to grab, excuse me, a screenshot of that, let me grab a drink of water. Got a tickle. All right. So this one, I am actually going to, let's set these aside and take our designer series paper piece. I'm going to grab my trimmer And I'm going to cut, this is 6 inches by 6 inches, and we want it to be 5 1/4 inches across. So, and of course you don't have to pick the same area on the paper that I have to use it. So now I'm going to turn it, and I want a 4-inch piece. So we'll trim that one off. And then we are going to grab a die from the Rectangle Stitch Framelits dies, also retired, something I will never part with. I use it all the time. So I've got the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4th from the smallest on this grouping. And I'm going to try to get it centered on this piece. I probably won't get it as close to perfect as I want with this ring light and camera. And I'm using Post-it note tape. Let me grab that. Post-it note tape. It's 1 inch wide. You can get that off of Amazon or at any office supply store. So let's get our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine again. Now since we're die cutting, I want plate 1. And let's see. This is, I've got plate 1, plate 2, a plate 3, my paper and my die. Am I still in the camera? And then another plate 3, a second plate 3. So put those all on there, line them up so they go through straight. Give that a crank. Snap, crackle, pop. Sometimes it sounds like things are breaking, but they are actually fine. So there is our cutout center. Try to get this off without tearing the paper. Okay, so there you can see that nice cutout piece. And this time I decided to use Mossy Meadow instead of the boho blue. So I'm going to take my layer of Mossy Meadow and my Designer Series paper, put a little tape on the back, line that up, and then see, now this piece that I cut out won't quite fit in the middle of there anymore. So now I think before I put that on there, I'm going to, and I think I'll use glue this time. I'm going to adhere this piece to the Mossy Meadow piece that goes underneath it. I don't want to get my glue too close to the edge because then it seems to seep out sometimes. So there's our Mossy Meadow piece. There's our Designer Series paper. Let's see if we can line this up evenly. That looks pretty good. Then we'll take some tape and adhere this piece to the card base. Let me grab my card base and give it another little crease. Make sure your card opens at the bottom, or your card base. Boy, I'm really wishing I had grabbed a piece of colored scrap paper. It's hard to see this. So hopefully that looks okay. So now I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this piece. I keep checking my phone every now and then to make sure that it's still recording, and it makes my heart beat quickly. So frightening. If something goes wrong again, I don't think I'll start over. It just maybe wasn't meant to be. All right, so let's pull our covers off. You probably don't really need this many dimensionals, but you know, why not keep Stampin' Up! In business? You could cut these in half and, you know, place them about in the same spots and use half as many. So let's try to line this up so we cover up that center opening. And then I have already stamped my sentiment. So I guess I could have cut it out too. I'm going to cut it out with a die from the, no, I'm not sure what I did with it. Oh, here it is. The Nested Essentials pack. And I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure that's in the catalog or not. I think it's pretty new, but I did not write down the page number. So let's see if we can grab our, I'm not sure what I did with my, there they are. My Post-it note pieces. So since we're using a die, it's going to be the same process as the piece that we just cut out. Base plate 1, plate 2, plate 3, your paper and die, and then a second plate 3. Then we'll run that through. So there's our sentiment, and you can leave it white like that if you want. I don't think I want it quite that bright, so I'm actually going to grab my Mossy Meadow ink and a sponge dauber, and I'm going to just take a little bit of this ink on the dauber, and I'm going to go around the edge of my sentiment paper. Don't want it really dark. And then I'm also going to just tap, tap, tap around the sentiment a little bit to tone that white down. Like I said, you can leave it white if you want. So let's glue the sentiment down. You could pop it up on dimensionals if you want, but we've already got a layer popped up on dimensionals, and it makes it a little more difficult to mail that way. So I'll put that down there. And then the last thing I'm going to do with this card is this little bow at the bottom. And I've got my bow maker, 9 inches of that ribbon. I'm going to hopefully quickly make a bow. And then I'm actually going to cut these tails off before I put the bow on the card. Hopefully that'll work. Sometimes it's hard to get them even. And then I'm just going to take a glue dot or two see if we can get them to stick to the ribbon instead of my fingers. I'll put another one on the other side. And then we'll just attach our little bow right down here underneath that popped up layer. I am also going to put a piece of basic white on the inside of the card. Those of you that watch my videos know that I rarely do this on camera. I always do put them in the cards, but I just don't do it that often in my videos. Okay, so there's that card. One in boho blue, one in mossy meadow. So you can see the difference that the cardstock you choose makes. So let me know which one you like better. I'm not sure which one I like better. I should do one with the petunia pop and see what that looks like. Okay, so the fourth and final card is this one. And what I did different on this one, there's a little bit of die cutting. This is die cutting too, but I also used the adhesive sheets. Anytime you have a die cut that's like this, it's not really tiny where you couldn't get glue on it, but it is kind of a pain. So that's a great die for an adhesive sheet. And that die is from the Delicate Edges. This is also a retired set. This is one of those that I've had forever. I love edge dies and I hardly ever use them. So I've been making myself use these and I thought that looked great on here. Also, I don't know if you can see the embossed background on this one. I used the Distressed Tile 3D embossing folder. And I have embossed the paper ahead of time, so we don't have to do that. So let's get our pieces here that we're going to need. If you want to get a screenshot. So I have a scrap of basic white, and that is for this die cut piece and the sentiment. So you want to make sure, obviously, that it's long enough to do that one. And then the rest are pretty self-explanatory, so you can grab a snag of that if you want. All right, so let's get started on this one. I am going to take my card base, give it its crease, set it off to the side, and then I'm going to take my Designer Series paper, and this is actually petal pink cardstock, and I don't believe that it is listed in the colors on this pack, but it actually matches great. So I am using it because I loved it. So let's put some tape on the back of this piece. That might have been a good candidate for Tombow glue. Might have needed an extra moment to scoot that one around. So this one, this is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, which is my standard, I'm going to call it my back layer. And this one is embossed. I am going to be brave and try tape again. I'll put it on here carefully. I found a new YouTube channel that I really like. If you like dogs, I don't just like watching dog videos, but you might like this. I just stumbled across it the other day. It's called Rocky Kanaka. I think that's his last name. Sitting with Dogs. So let's attach this dry embossed piece to our card base. And what it is this guy that goes into animal shelters, and he will walk down the aisle where the dogs are. And you know how they're always up the front barking, and they jump up and they're like, pick me, pick me. He kind of zeroes in on the ones that are at the back of the kennel, and they're kind of laying there and they look forlorn and sad. It's kind of sad to watch. But those are the ones that he goes in with. And let's put some tape on the back of this. It's hard to explain. He goes in there. A lot of the time he doesn't make eye contact. He knows a lot of psyche with dogs. So he'll just kind of casually scooch in there. A lot of times he brings his own little blanket to sit on, and he will just kind of sit there and, I don't want to say ignore the dogs, but he's, you know, looking at the camera and talking to the audience, I guess you call it, and not putting any pressure on the dog. All right, so let me explain the adhesive sheets. There's 12 of them in this pack. I believe they're 6 by 12, and they've got adhesive on 2 sides. So you can, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's like 3 little strips that you can peel off. So you would cut whatever size you want, and usually I just cut like a 6 by 6 piece of whatever paper I'm going to use, and you can, you know, put it back in that pack and use it later. I usually cut the paper a little bit bigger than this, and then you would peel the backing off and stick it to the back of the cardstock that you're going to use. And then you would die cut the paper with the adhesive sheet on it. And then when you pull it off, you've got your die cut, but it's already got adhesive on the back of it. So you can just pull that off, and it's sticky. So I am actually going to cut this off down here toward the bottom a little bit. I'm just going to cut off that extra little piece. And I'm going to lay this down on here. So back to the dogs. So anyway, he takes his time and he'll start tossing them treats and then hoping to finally get them to take them out of his hands, and they'll usually take it from his fingers this way before they'll take it from this. This is really a big I trust you thing. So then after he can finally get to that point, I'm looking for a little piece of paper I had here. He will finally try to touch them, pet them, give them some love, tell them how wonderful they are and that he's sorry that they're there. Anyway, you should watch it. It's just a great thing to watch. Some of the stories don't turn out so great, but his whole purpose is just in getting the dog so it can be adopted, getting it so it's not back in the corner where nobody will look at it. So what I've done is just taken a little strip of paper and put some glue on it because I have a few little ends that are sticking up. So if you ever have that issue, so I've got my glue on there, you can just put it right underneath the paper. So I'm getting glue and then just push that down. Yay! Instead of folding your paper back and trying to get the glue on it, and then you always get too much. All right, so now let's take our petal pink sentiment layer piece, and I will put glue on the sentiment piece. And it doesn't look like I cut a piece of paper for the inside of the card. That's funny after all of these other 3 that I've been so good about. Back to my old tricks. Okay, so I didn't pop anything up on here. You could certainly pop the sentiment up if you wanted. I'm going to figure out kind of where I want to put the sentiment. And I'm going to put glue on the back of it here. But I'm also going to add just a little bit of glue here to make sure that that right side stays down. So there's my glue. Put this on here. See if we can get it straight. And it's funny when I do things like this and then I think they're straight and then I look at it the next day and go, good grief, that looks terrible. You know, and of course by then it's too late to move. So now I'm going to add some of the 2024-2026 in color shimmer gems. Grab my tweezers again, and I'll put a large one right here. This color match is really good too. And then a small one up here. And then a small one. It's going to be hard to see anywhere over here. I'm going to put it way up here. Okay, so that is the 4th and final card. let me know what you think of these. I also made, while I was putting things together, I also made this one. And this one I used, this is one of the, I'm going to call it the fronts, the really pretty pieces. And the background piece is, I think it's a back of another piece. I'm not sure. Could be the front. I'm not sure. So then I also have this one. And this is in Pretty Peacock, Lost Lagoon, and Petunia Pop. And then this layer is popped up. This is the one that says Faith. And then on the inside, I did a layer of Lost Lagoon and the basic white. So Faith is being sure of what we cannot see. Love that. Love it. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So there's our first one, our second one, our third one, our fourth one, whoops, upside down, and then the 2 bonus cards. So let me know what you think of these cards. I think that this paper is really fun to play with. There's sure a lot of gorgeous pieces in the pack. And then also the Unbounded Love stamp set is fantastic. There's so many wonderful sentiments in there. So anyway, thanks for stopping by today. I really appreciate you taking the time to do so. If you're getting anything out of my videos, you know the routine. Thumbs up, hit the like button, share it with your family and friends. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would. So have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Thanks.